Today, I will tell you about truly terrifying events that took place in Japan. If you are under 18 or have a weak psyche, I strongly recommend refraining from watching. Corruption, greed, avarice. How far can a person go in their lust for profit? And what are they willing to do for it? Are they willing to sacrifice hundreds, if not thousands of lives for it? The lives of children, women, and innocent men. Well, as the events of 1956 in Japan showed, some people are willing to do anything just to fill their pockets. And today we will learn about the small town of Minamata, where a huge scandal erupted due to people literally poisoning themselves with mercury without even realizing it. Anyone who has watched any material related to Japan knows that it is full of well-maintained parks, dense forests, and spotless streets. Except for the area we talk about the video about Johatsu. An ordinary resident has never seen a landfill, and garbage is sorted and recycled according to all environmental conservation laws. And all of this didn't come out of nowhere. The early 20th century, widespread industrialization. Many countries, including Japan, began building numerous factories, plants, and railways. Society was developing at a breakneck pace. Around this time, a factory of the Chiso Corporation appeared in the coastal town of Minamata, producing various household chemicals and starting off strong. Why Minamata? It's simple. The poorer and more remote the village, the cheaper and more powerless the labor force. The residents eagerly accepted the offer, as they didn't have many options to avoid starvation, either survive on catfish their whole lives or work at the new factory. Everything was fine until half a century later. In 1956, when residents began noticing increasingly strange behavior in cats on the streets of Minamata. The strangeness was evident in their movements, behavior, and frequent seizures. These ailments was dubbed dancing cat disease, but it wasn't just cats that suffered. Birds often fell from the sky, seaweed disappeared from the bay, and fish were often seen floating belly up. However, at the time, no one could have imagined that a real catastrophe was looming. Just a couple of years later, a girl named Kumiko Matsunaga, just 6 years old, was admitted to the local hospital. Her symptoms were the same as those of the dancing cats. Horrific seizures, including paralysis, numbness of the limbs, slurred speech, and impaired movements. Just 2 days later, her sister was also hospitalized with similar symptoms. The city authorities hurried to survey the population, discovering several more cases of this strange ailment. They realized that a completely new disease affecting the nervous system was emerging in Minamata. The chief doctor confirmed this. The cat's dance took an epidemic proportions, as within a very short time, 52 people were infected, 20 of whom died. It's easy to calculate that the mortality rate was nearly 40%. The strange disease needed to be studied, so the authorities created a special committee for the countermeasure of strange diseases. Kibio Taisaku Inkai. Yes, that's what it's called. It included doctors from the local administration, and soon they finally identified the cause: metal particle poisoning. At the same time, new characteristics began to emerge. Patients experienced coordination disorders, making it difficult for them to button clothes, pick up small objects, or tie shoelaces. They started to stumble when walking, and their voice tone changed. This was followed by seizures and loss of consciousness. Attention turned to the Chiso factory. The top executives blatantly denied that their production was responsible, and the factory continued operating as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, people continued to be poisoned en masse. Yes, as you might have guessed, the factory was to blame, but how exactly people were getting poisoned was unclear. So the committee sampled water from the bay. They found many things, but for us, only one is important: a high concentration of mercury. Without going into details, the factory was dumping waste into the bay, contaminating all the fish and water, which likely caused the deaths of people, cats, and birds, with a very high probability. Finding mercury in the bay was, of course, a good step, but keep in mind that these were poor people in a remote area dealing with a prestigious factory, which, as you remember, had been doing well from the start. So bribery, blackmail, and kickbacks came into play. Production continued. Eventually, after a couple of years, the doctors managed to alert the public. Various commissions descended on the factory, and the top brass naturally took measures. Can you guess what kind behind? The prefectural authorities banned the sale of fish caught in Minamata Bay. Yes, and the factory in turn continued operating. At that moment, it's hard to imagine what the ordinary people who had their main source of income taken away, selling seafood to feed their families, felt. As you understand, they had few choices, either trade and eat fish or work at the ill-fated factory. But the most frightening thing was that their loved ones were ill and children were being born sick. A child in the womb, when exposed to mercury, absorbed it like a sponge, thereby protecting their mother from the disease. Feelings were not limited to that. The locals besieged the factory and in a fit of rage destroyed everything they could. The estimated damage was $100,000. The police dispersed the riot, but the resentment clearly remained. Chiso Corporation tried to buy its way out cheaply. They paid paltry compensations to those who could provide evidence of poisoning, ignoring those who had recently become infected. There was even a performance by the factory related to the installation of water purification filters. Then the company head approached the filter, scooped up a glass of water from it, and drank it in front of the astonished locals. Their relief was short-lived, as it later turned out it was just a regular drinking water, and even if the filter was installed, it was clearly insufficient to purify such a high concentration of mercury. People continued to die. This was even reported in the New York Times. Meanwhile, in the USA, there lived a man who would intervene in this matter and help the residents of Minamata put an end to the conflict. As a child, he dreamed of becoming a pilot, but he ended up becoming a professional photographer. He became famous worldwide for his photos of the World War II. Critics unanimously stated that no one before him had photographed war so poignantly. His name was Eugene Smith, and from this moment, the story takes an unexpected turn. If you don't believe in fate, now is the time to start. During World War II, he visited Japan where he sustained a severe jaw injury that sidelined him from work for a long time. He underwent 32 surgeries, and during his recovery, he took the accidental photo Walk to Paradise Garden, which became the most famous of his career. As I mentioned that Eugene would help the residents of Minamata, you might have guessed that yes. After his injury, 25 years later, he returned to Japan with his wife Aileen to capture images that would shake the public and draw a global attention to the Minamata issue. Upon arrival, the couple planned to stay for only 3 months, but ended up staying for 3 years. The reason they stayed so long was the people. The fact is, even now, it's unlikely anyone would allow you to photograph them or their family and children, especially in the condition the locals were in, exhausted, hopeless, and tired of the endless struggle with the factory. The issue was delicate, and Eugene couldn't just barge in with a camera to photograph strangers. Instead, he got to know the people, learned their stories, understood their feelings, and over time befriended many families in Minamata. This approach was a powerful element in his photographs. One of the pictures, which his wife Alien later decided not to spread out of respect for the family, is called Tomoko and Mother in a Bath. I won't show it here, but you can look it up online if you wish. One of Eugene's quotes says, "The first thing I would remove from a journalist's vocabulary is the word objective." Indeed, if you are a journalist, nothing can be truly objective. You put yourself, and therefore the viewer, in a specific situation, in the emotional center of what you saw and experienced. The goal was to understand the reality of people and who they really were. And here's something important. Although almost all the locals supported closing the factory, or at least stopping the mercury pollution, there was one catch: the factory workers. Yes, they might have been locals, but the factory was their only chance for a decent living, and shutting it down would hit them financially. If they had no money, they couldn't feed their families. So we have two sides of the same coin. On one side, the locals who worked at the factory, and on the other, those who didn't and couldn't pay for their livelihood, since selling fish was banned. At some point, Eugene joined others in negotiating with the head of the Chiso Corporation. They faced a hostile crowd, and Eugene was severely beaten. There are still debates about whether it was the local Yakuza mafia bribed by the company or the factory workers. After this incident, he nearly lost an eye and frequently fainted just by raising his hand. During these moments, Alien helped him take photographs. Despite everything, during their 3 years in Minamata, Eugene took many photos that exposed what the bribed authorities, intimidated doctors, and factory executives tried to hide. The photographs were published in the American magazine Life, which focused on photojournalism. Incidentally, Eugene had worked there before. It's believed that the photograph Tomoko and Mother in a bath became Eugene Smith's best work and caused a significant public outcry, drawing global attention to the Minamata disease. Tomoko's mother gave permission for its publication to achieve this goal. Eventually, the court ruled that the Chiso Corporation had to compensate the victims and cover all medical and funeral expenses. The Japanese government also began cleaning the Bay of Mercury and, of course, banned dumping it into the bay. However, it's too early to celebrate, as some victims' court cases continued into the 2000s, even though the main events took place in 70s. Online, you can still find complaints from patients that Chiso paid compensation reluctantly and small amounts. Although the government promised to help the company pay off the citizens, the 2000 financial report shows that the renounced commitments amounting to $560 million. Essentially, the prefecture government abandoned these people in their time of need. Money was more important to them. Nonetheless, in 2006, a memorial was built to honor the victims of mercury poisoning. Well, what can we say? That's exactly what people need. In conclusion, here are some statistics. According to approximate estimates, the Chiso Corporation dumped 27 tons of mercury into Minamata Bay. Out of 3,000 infected people, only 528 survived. After the incident, another 20,000 people were recognized as victims. And these are just the official numbers. The real situation is even more frightening. Eugene Smith's photo essay from Minamata was his last. In 1978, he died of a stroke. The Chiso Corporation's factory in Minamata operates to this day. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching.